right. Okay, cool. So, all right, making sure it's recording. Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to share my slides and I'm going to break down how I structure stories and why certain things are important and why I think that storytelling is one of, if not, dare I say, yeah, one of the most important things we're going to have to master when it comes to this AI world. The reason being is I strongly believe that when it comes to AI, there's certain things that it's going to impact, there's certain things it's going to affect. But more importantly, how can we stay human in the world of AI? And I believe personal brand is going to play a huge part. So still letting people in. So personal brand is going to play a huge part. But I also believe community will be a big part. This is one of the main reasons why I'm really focusing on getting building a community here and helping you guys out as much as I possibly can. But more importantly, you helping each other as well.
Sorry, I just because
stay coding. So what I'm doing at the moment, there we go. Hopefully I should be able to hear you now. All right, cool. So what I'm trying to do, so if you ever listen to it back, like any of these sessions, you always watch it back again. I always have your faces there. And I always like to see faces, but I can't work out how I can record it without your faces not being there. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to put this on my phone as well and seeing if I can see your faces on the phone, then maybe you'll get the actual recording without all of the stuff. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to do now. So if you see me looking over this way, that's the reason why. I've just got to now work out how I can see everyone's face and not just mine. And I don't think I can. Participants. No, I can't work it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deliver this and I'm not going to see anyone's faces today. So let's see how this goes. All right. So using AI to tell powerful stories. Now, I'm just going to switch this off. Yeah, exactly, Miriam. Hopefully one day AI will kind of just sort this out for me. But what I'll do as well is I'll kind of make this as interactive as possible because I can't see you. I don't know if I've, for whatever reason, my internet's cut off or anything like that. So I don't want to be talking and all of a sudden you guys are not here. So using AI to tell powerful stories. When it comes to storytelling, this is what's going to make you stand out. Whenever I'm doing the AI live with the videos, it's the videos that tell great stories. It's not how amazing certain graphics are or how great somebody has or how they've managed to use special effects. Ultimately, it goes down to the story that people are telling in those videos. And back in the day, I can't remember if I said this to you last time, but about 30 years ago, I had the Sega Mega Drive. And on the Mega Drive, there was a really good game. Well, I thought it was good. It looked good. And it was called Sword of Sodom. Don't know if anyone remembers that game. But this game was known for its graphics. So I remember seeing it thinking to myself, this game looks amazing. I'm going to save up all my little pennies that I can get and eventually buy this game. Then I started seeing the reviews, and the reviews were really, really bad. And I was like, it doesn't make sense. It looks amazing. Why does that not make sense? So I ignored all of the reviews and I decided to save up my money and buy the game anyway. And it was one of the worst games I have ever played. Awful game. And then I learned a big lesson. It doesn't matter how nice you make certain things. Ultimately, it goes down, in that case, gameplay, videos or not sorry, videos, films, TV shows, story, as well as books. So one of the key things I started, even then, years and years ago, I started understanding the power of story. Now, when I was working at the BBC, I remember doing a radio show. Sorry, I remember doing a training session on storytelling. And I remember thinking, I remember it very, very vividly. because we had to do this session and I didn't want to go. I was busy and I just said, all right, fine, I'll just go because, well, I had to. And it was connected to do with my appraisal, which is connected to do with your, obviously, pay. So I was like, all right, I'll go to it. And it was one of the best training sessions I've ever had. And the reason why is because I remember it still to this day. And this guy broke down how stories are structured all over the world, whether it be on TV, whether it be on radio, not radio, whether it be on TV, whether it be on film, etc. He broke it down brilliantly with the idea on how to keep people engaged. And we had to do that for radio because if we're doing 3 hours radio shows, 2 3 hour shows, it's like, how do we keep people? And when I left there and I went to MySpace, I still applied this to a lot of the content I was creating at MySpace. And when I left MySpace, I apply it to my training sessions. And over the years, I've used other people and I've been studying this and three like areas that I want to give like a shout out to. One is Pixar. Pixar, I don't know if it's still there, but they used to have a free training session on how they come up with their stories, how they come up with um, I think Toy Story is part of Pixar, Monsters Inc., and all of those stories, like how they structure stories, how they write scripts. There's a guy called Donald Miller. He does something called Story Brand, which is connected to do with business, which is going to be similar to what I do here. But I remember coming across him thinking, he gets the concept. I wonder if he did the session that I done because it's very similar to what this guy spoke about. And there's another book called Save the Cat, and it's a really good book. And a lot of people actually use this book as like the main place when it comes to script writing and storytelling. And so I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to these kind of 4 areas, what I learned at the BBC and the others, because this has helped me structure. And then with my experience, with me tweaking things, and also in recent years using AI, it's helped me come up with what I call the 7 steps to storytelling. That is actually part of a bigger thing that I do, which is the storytelling, which is my whole storytelling system. Now, so I'm still letting people in 1 second. Now, the reason why it's so important when it comes to stories and when I break down stories is because everybody on the internet is telling a story. If you've got a website, if you've got a social media channel, which I'm sure every single person in here has, you're telling a story, whether it be you as an individual or as a huge corporate brand. Like everyone is telling a story. The problem, though, is most people are telling a boring story. So, what we want to know is what makes a good story? What story can we tell that makes people interested? And in the world of digital, not just interested, for them to get their attention, for them to share it with people, for them to engage. And it also could even go down to them to buy something from you. So we need to understand the structure of story. Now, you're actually telling 3 different stories online. There's 3 stories that you're telling. The first story is the company story. Whatever company you work for, whether you work for a charity, whether you work for yourself, even your personal brand, I'll put in this as well. That's one story. And that's usually like, say for me, it will be I started at Pop Idol, worked for Liverpool Football Club, then went to the BBC, then I went to MySpace, and then I left MySpace, and then training. That's my story that I weave. Depending on who I'm speaking to, I'll weave it in different ways. I'm not going to talk about that story today. What I am going to talk about, though, is the second story that you're telling. And I actually think this is probably the most important story. And that's the user journey story. If you want to go from using digital from personal, i.e., I've got my Instagram account, people can just see me do stuff, to professional, this is a business and now I'm making money from it, or I'm saving time, or it's helping me grow as a person, then you really need to understand user journey. Probably one of the most important things that I've realized over the 25 years working in this space. So this is a story that you're already telling. As I said, it's just that you might be telling whether it be boring story or a story that has no structure to it. And there's a guy called Richard Eduardo, and he said, I believe the best leadership skill is storytelling. If you want to lead somebody somewhere, you need to get good at storytelling. So, what makes a good story? I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to stories, there's actually 7 stories that's told. Whether you're watching TV, whether you're watching film, whether you're reading a book, there's only 7 stories that's really told. And some people might argue that it's actually only 2 stories. And the story that we know the most, the story that we're most familiar with, is the hero story. And you know that story. I'm going about my day. Something happens. Now I must defeat this in order for that to happen. That is the hero story. And that is the story that we know. That's the story that we grew up with. We've got, for example, big action films like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. It's that hero quest or the hero's quest. You've got all the big Marvel films, all the big Disney films like The Lion King and Aladdin. They follow this story. Rom-coms as well. Rom-coms follow the same structure. And rom-coms, it's usually, stereotypically, does she get the guy? And the journey for her to get him. That's usually the story. It's the same structure. And believe it or not, this is the story that you've been telling since you've been on the internet. But here's the problem. Here's the problem that you and pretty much every brand that I come across suffers from. They think they're the hero of the story, and they're not. In the chat, who do you think the hero is? Of this story that you're telling, or every brand on the internet is telling, who do you think the hero actually is? Yep, the viewer, the user, the customer, the audience. No trick question here. There's no trick question. It's the end user. Now, you might think, okay, that's obvious. But you will be shocked by the amount of content that you'll see. Just look at brands that will say things like, we've been established since 1965. Look at us do this. Look at when we done that. Which, at best, the real hero, i.e. the end user, will say, good on you, at best. Because when you do that, you make yourself the hero of the story, when it's all about you. And the person who you actually want to take action is not going to be on the journey. So this is one of the fundamental things that I see brands do on social media or online. They actually get the first bit wrong, which is, who is the hero? Now, earlier on, I said that I call this the 7 steps. I actually don't even put the hero or identifying the hero as one of the steps. I actually don't put that because I think that bit is like the bit before everything kicks in. Who is the target audience? So Paul's just said, I'm currently writing a story for a personal project, which is a kids 3D animation. It has 4 main characters, a baddie, a hero, extras, and a group of comical misfits. All together, it makes a good story. And that's the thing when it comes to story. You need to get the right parts. And it seems like you've got that. And I'm going to explain where they all fit within this story that I'm about to tell as well, Paul. So let's break down the 7 steps. Now, we know who the hero is. We've identified this. Your target audience is whoever you're trying to target whether it be your service to, your business to, whatever it is, your content, what you put online. Who is your target audience? And you might see, well, you've probably seen, if you're looking at any instructional person teaching you anything online, one of the first things they'll say is, who's your audience? So that's the first thing. That's why I don't even include it in the steps, because it's like, that's really important, especially in the world of social media now. So let's go through the 7 steps. The first step, once you've identified the hero, is you must know what comfort is for them. What does a typical day look like for them? What are they doing? What does life look like when everything is going fine? Because you know how these films start. It doesn't start with the hero in distress. It starts usually, they're just going about their day, then something happens. So what is this day here? What does it typically look like? This is where you can use AI. If you know who your hero is, and you can use AI to work out your target audience, then you can just say, what does a typical day look like for them? Ask questions. Find out. You might know yourself. You might add some information, and then it can add to it. So this is what I would typically do. If I'm working with a particular client, I'll kind of work out what a typical day is. If I'm on the phone to somebody, I might just say to them, what does a normal day look like? Because this is the information that I want to know because it's going to help me structure the rest of everything. Now, in these films, if you do not know who's the hero, what they ultimately have to do, and what's stopping them, if you do not know that in the first 20 to 25 minutes, you will say, this film's really slow. Or, I have no idea what's going on right now. Because when we watch film, we have structure. We kind of know how these films work. And it's the same thing when it comes to what you do online. If you know who the hero is, when you're creating content, you need to know who's the hero, what they ultimately want, and what's stopping them doing what they ultimately want. So if I'm selling a product and I know that my target audience are women between 35 and 45, and I want them to click on this link, something, if they've seen it, something is stopping them clicking on that link. So I need to identify that, because if I don't, they're not going to click on it. And my goal personally is to get people to click on the link. So once we know what comfort is, it's important to know what comfort is, because this goes into the second step. And that is, we need to disrupt it. We can't keep them in comfort, because if they stay in comfort, they're never going to change. Something has to happen. And that something is usually two things. Because if there's no struggle, there's no story. And the first thing in disruption is some form of external outer challenge or barrier. This is the first thing that happens that we have to know, like that the hero has to overcome. In a film, this is usually the bad person. This is Darth Vader. This is Jafar in Aladdin. This is Voldemort in Harry Potter. In Mean Girls, it's the other group of mean girls. It's that person. There's always some form of antagonist that the hero has to overcome. And as viewers, this is what we see. For you, your customers or your target audience, your heroes, it will be something external. Like, I want to do this, but I don't have the time. I would love to come to your event, but I'm not in the location. I want to buy this, but I don't have the money. I really want to do this, but I don't feel well, or I need to sort out my kids, or something. There's going to be something external to them that could be a barrier on why. But as you know, people don't buy because of that. You know, if they don't have, there's a lot of people out there that will buy something if they can't afford it. You know, if they really want to go to something, they will move heaven on earth to go to. So again, the external challenges people can overcome, but it's your job as a content creator and as if you're building your personal brand, when you create content, to do that. However, what makes a film is not this. Because we know that the hero is going to beat the villain. That's a given. We know that's going to happen. But what makes a film is the third part of the story. So if the first part is comfort, the second is disruption with the outer challenge. The third part is the opposite of external, which is internal. And I call this self. This is all about self-belief. Do I have what it takes? I know I have to defeat this villain, but do I have what it takes? And this here is what makes a good film. And this is usually all about self-belief, because the hero at the beginning of the film is not the same person at the end of the film. I want to defuse this bomb, but my dad, he was the best person in the world at defusing bombs. In fact, he taught me everything I know. But he died trying to defuse this bomb. So what makes me think I can do it? That. When it comes to your customers, every single one of them will have some form of internal challenge that they're going through. I want to afford this, but will it look good on me? I want to do this, but what as if people laugh? I want to do this, but it's going to make me feel sick. I want to do this, but will my kids be embarrassed? Everyone will have that. Every single person. Your job is to identify that. And when I say you, I'm talking your cyborgs now. So you and ChatGPT or you and whatever large language model can identify this. Once you know the outer and inner challenges, that is what you're going to need to defeat the person. That's what you're going to need if you want the hero to take action. Because people are not going to take action if inner or outer challenges are not met. Think about yourself. If you've bought something online, it's ticked enough boxes of the inner challenges and outer challenges, and then you've decided to take a leap of faith. That's what's happened. Even coming to this webinar, if you've come to this before and then you've come 2 or 3 times, you thought this is rubbish, you wouldn't come back. You wouldn't come back because it's like, why am I going to waste my time? So these are things that is really important to understand, because this is how you're going to build content. So when it comes to your personal branding, when it comes to building content, if it doesn't answer these 2 things, really, you've got a hobby. And then you will then start going into the world of maybe you'll get a couple of viral videos here and there, but you're not going to get growth. So does this make sense so far, all of this? If it does, just put a 4 in the chat. If not, press 5. Just want to make sure, and also that you're still on the line. Cool. All right, brilliant. So, thank you. Someone said, we said brilliant stuff. Sue, thanks. Oliver, you said 4.5. What is it that you don't get? Feel free to jump on the mic and ask away, because I want to make sure that everyone kind of understands this. Or feel free, if you don't want to jump on the mic, feel free to just put it in. Oh, just having a lot. Okay, cool. No worries. As I said, AI can help you with all of this so far. If you understand planning, if you understand the structure of this, the prompt is easy. I've always said, when it comes to AI, the 3 fundamental things of AI is the prompt, the tool, and the imagination. That's the 3 fundamentals of AI. And this is here kicks into the imagination side of things. A lot of people said last year, can you do more stuff in imagination? This kind of goes into that box, the imagination box. Now, another reason why it's important to understand the outer and inner challenges to do with algorithms. As you're probably aware of, we're going into the relevancy algorithm now. It almost doesn't matter how many followers you have. It's all about relevancy. If I go on Instagram right now, I can guarantee my feed will be, the first thing might be somebody I know is posted, then it's going to be an ad, then it probably is another ad, then it's follow this, then it will be something to connect to do with threads, then it will be follow this person, then it might be another ad, and then it might be randomly someone else that I know, then it's just going to follow the same pattern. So 1 in every 10 posts will be somebody I've followed, and probably 1 in every 4 or 5 will be the relevancy algorithm. And that's on Instagram. Forget TikTok, which is what it's known for. So if you know their challenges, if you know who the hero is, if you know how to disrupt them, so their outer and inner challenges, and your content's connected to that, the AI algorithms will do their best to make sure it goes to the right people. So this here is really, really important to know, because this is going to help structure you. And the reason why relevancy is important is because people go to the organization they understand the best, not the best organization. Technically, the best social networking site I've ever seen is Google+. Technically, it done everything a social networking site should do. It sets out nice little groups of people. It had different ways to engage. It had multiple options when it comes to content, but no one went on it. And it wasn't that it wasn't good. It was that you didn't understand it unless you worked at Google. That's pretty much the main people who understood it. And I often say, throwback. I often say that a lot of my friends have Androids. And in fact, one of my best friends, Steve, he has an Android. And he's like, yeah, Android is way better than iPhone. And my sister has an Android. And she says, yeah, Android's better. And I'm like, you know what? It might be, but I don't understand it. So that's why I stick to Apple. Because I know that when I get a new iPhone, all I've got to do is move it across. And the last 2 times it's not worked properly, but I just usually move it across and I know where everything is. So I'm just going to go to the product I understand rather than the best product. So it's so important for you to be clear, not cute. So that's why being clear, big part of that is understanding the internal and external challenges that you need to face. Now, cool. So I said earlier on that you're telling the hero story. I also said you're not the hero of the story. In these films, every single one of these hero type films, there's always a particular character that appears that plays a role that is actually you. So right in front of you right now, there's a poll. What do you think your role is in this story that you're already telling anyway? Do you think your role is the narrator, the mentor, stroke advisor, or the sidekick? Do you think your role is the narrator, the mentor, stroke advisor, or sidekick? These characters appear in all of these films. So what do you think your role is? So I'm waiting on a few of you still. Okay, so I'll give you 5 more seconds if you haven't voted. Still, there's about 10 of you need to vote. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to end it now. Overwhelmingly, most people said no, the narrator. 28% of you said the mentor, and 11% said the psychic. Your role is the mentor advisor. That is your role. The narrator is your analytics. Analytics basically like tells the story like a narrator will tell the story. The sidekick is the content that's not designed to get people to act, but it's designed to get people to like you more. So if you ever follow me on LinkedIn, I will curate a lot of stuff and I'll post it. Me posting a video of a robot playing football is not going to say, you know what, I'm going to get Andrew to go and teach me on social media or AI. But what it does is it builds trust. It builds, Andrew shares cool stuff. Let me follow him more. And by doing that, when I do share my other stuff, people will see it and they'll get to know me better. Because building trust in this world of personal branding is way more important than building awareness or conversion. Because if you can build trust, it's going to help with both of them anyway. So your role is the advisor. Every single film has it. In Star Wars, Luke Skywalker has Yoda, and I'll say an Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I remember, don't talk about religion, politics, or Star Wars. So I'll say Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. In The Lion King, it's his dad, Mufasa. Timon and Pumbaa, they're sidekicks. Rafiki, narrator. Devil Wears Prada, if you've seen that film. Anne Hathaway's character, I can't remember her name. When she's stuck, she goes to Stanley Tucci, or Nigel, his name is. That is the guide or advisor. Every single film has this type of character. If it doesn't have this type of character, it's one of the 6 other stories that I mentioned. So I said there's 7 stories, it's one of the 6. If it doesn't have these people that I'm mentioning. So if that's your job, what makes a good one? Because the reason you're an advisor, not the hero, is because you're part of, when it comes to your online from a professional point of view, you need to set the story. Like you're setting the roadmap, you're setting the user journey. That's your job. That's what strategy is about. Go to here, then go here, then go here, then go here, or funnels. So you don't need to be on it if you're setting it, if you're drawing it out. You just need to be next to the hero, helping them along. That's your job. But being an advisor is one thing. Being a good advisor is something else. So there's 4 things that makes up a good advisor. One, you need to understand the hero. Because if you don't understand the hero, they're not going to listen to you. If you look at the Hunger Games, Caithness, she listens to Hamish, who is the Woody Harrelson's character, because he's the advisor, because he won the Hunger Games before, so he could advise her how to win it, and he knows how to get sponsorship. So if you haven't seen it, sorry, I should have said this is my warning. Hopefully I haven't spoiled it for you. It's a good film, actually. Don't watch the third one. Watch 1, 2, 3, don't bother. 4, yes, all right. But you need to, the person needs to understand you if you're the hero, and that's you. So this is why it's important to know the inner and outer challenges or what disrupts them. Because if you can understand that, then people will say things like, yeah, you kind of understand where what I'm talking about, or you get me, all of these things. Another thing an advisor needs to know what is at stake. If you do this, if you go with someone else, you do realize that all of these things that you're trying to achieve is not going to happen. You do realize all that self-belief is just going to get worse. You're going to lose confidence. But if you go with me, one of the things I can guarantee is that you're going to get this result. I'm going to build you up to being the most confident person. And all the things when it comes to time and people saying this about money, they can't do it. Don't worry. People will be throwing money at you. You need to know what's at stake. And it's usually if you go with them, bad. If you go with me, the world's your oyster. Another thing you need to do is you need to position yourself as a leader. You need to show some form of authority, because if you don't, people will not believe you. They're not going to listen to you. And if you've ever been in a situation with your partner and you give them advice and they're like, yeah, whatever. And then 3 weeks later, you'll be watching TV and someone says the exact same thing that you've said. And they'll say, what a good idea. I'm now going to go and do blah, blah, blah. The same thing that you said. And it's not that what you said was wrong. It's just that they don't see you as a position of authority. So that's the reason why you need to show authority. Online, it could be, unfortunately, the amount of followers you have. But ultimately, it goes down to the type of content, how you deliver that content, how you package that content, having a community, being there, even just being consistent. You're showing some form of authority. If you've got certificates, great. If you've got testimonials, even better. But I actually think the fourth thing is way more important. Because you can be a dentist, say, for example, and you can understand the hero. So your hero is your patient, and you understand that this problem that they've got with their teeth. You know what's at stake, i.e., if you keep that tooth in, you're going to be in pain for the next 7, 8, 9 years. And it's going to cost you even more money that I'm charging you. But if you take it out now, I'll give you some antibiotics. You're going to be pain-free for a while. And I know you've had this pain for the last 6 months. So if I take it out now, you won't be in pain this time tomorrow. They position themselves as a leader because, one, they're a dentist and they've got dentist in their name. And second, they've probably got a whole bunch of walls full of certificates. So they position themselves as a leader. But there's something about this dentist I just don't like. There's something about this person that just doesn't sit well with me. And this is why personality plays a big part. What is your personality? What is your company's personality? Because people will buy from people they like, even if some of these have not hitting as high as like a dentist. He's like, yeah, but I like this guy. Why do you think politicians are either somebody that's very smart and logical and data driven, like Richie Sunak? Like, we love him or hate him, he was a very smart person. Gordon Brown as well in the UK. They're very smart people, but the country didn't warm to them. And then you got Boris Johnson, probably the most incompetent prime minister we've ever had. But people are like, especially before he left, people were like, but it's Boris. You know, he spent years building up his personality, doing silly things like getting caught on the zip slide. Like, that was all done on purpose to build up him, this goofy character, his hair like that, because people would be drawn to him. Politics is a game of personality. You're either very logical and know your stuff, or your personality. In America, people, for whatever reason, likes Trump. Well, half the country, well, probably not even that now, but there's a lot of people that like him. Same as Obama. Reagan was another one. Bill Clinton was another one. George Bush, I'm not sure. He was a bit more like, let's get things done and his team. But you see this with leaders as well, politics, especially in obviously more democratic countries. So, what's your personality? How do you want to be seen online? And this is where AI is fantastic. And this is why I'm not going to go into it today because I've done this before and I'll definitely do another session soon on training the model. I said before that when it comes to training your AI, if you don't train your large language model, I won't say it's not as well, you might as well not use it, but it's like taking a phone and all you do is you got the latest smartphone and you only use it to make phone calls. That's it. You don't even use it to save addresses and stuff, let alone the camera and the listening to music and apps and stuff. So you once you train the model, you can train it on your personality. You can because it knows your personality, it can help you write scripts, it can help you write presentations, it can help you do all of this. Especially once you've added in who's your hero, what a comfortable day looks like, what disrupts the day, etc. So Lawrence said, I'm disappointed with Gemini's memory when it comes to training. To be honest, I've not really tested Gemini like that. I'm actually paying for Gemini. I'm actually using it more for create Nano Banana, if I'm being honest, and the AI Studio and Notebook LM. When it comes to using it as a like ChatGPT, I don't really use it. In fact, out of 8 essentials, I mainly use it for research because I actually think it's pretty good at research because of it. Well, it's Google, and also for summarizing YouTube videos. That's what I mainly use it for. Um, yeah, all of them struggle to an extent. And that's why I was actually training today and someone mentioned this. And what I would say is that, let's say, for example, you've trained a chat and you've been using this chat for a while. What I would do is I'll just say something like, what I've trained this chat on whatever it is, let's say writing hooks. Can you just write down exactly what you know about it? And it will write down and say in detail. So it'll write down and then you copy that, you open up a new chat and say, I want you to remember this. And you just paste it and then you just do it that way. So that's a really good way to kind of remember all of that. And what I often do is I usually take that and I'll go to Perplexity, which at the moment is becoming my large language model of choice. You know, so I'm at the moment I'm kind of defaulting to Perplexity if I'm being honest. And someone gave me something the other day on Wowzers. I think is it Wowchers? You can get Perplexity for £20 for the year. So Perplexity, if you've got £20 spare, it might be worth doing that. I got mine free for a year with PayPal, but I know that offer's not there at the moment. Uh, Vouchers, yeah, I think it's vouchers. In fact, what I'll do is later, once I've come off the slides, I'll find the link and I'll send it to you. But I just want to let you know, I'm just sending it to you. I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying, look what I found, and if you decide to use it, it's up to you. But yeah, I just want to kind of let you know that. So, what's the time? Oh, okay, 15 minutes left. Do you think it's possible for people who start monetizing their? Do you think it will be possible for people who start monetizing their trade? No, because then you'll start going into GPTs, and that, well, yeah, if you're going to start going into GPTs and agents, then yes, because that's essentially what it's just another form of trading. So you can monetize that, and OpenAI is trying to open up some form of like an app store when it comes to training. That how well it does, I don't know, because it's not that difficult to go into a GPT and reverse engineer what they've done and then just copy and paste it into when you create a GPT or using an AI agent. It's not difficult at all. So one day I'll show you how to do that. There's a good prompt. I just need to find it. I just can't remember where I put it. But there's a good prompt that you can use that just reverse engineers everything. Yes, in fact, uh, Makushia, she's the one who sent it to me, and that is the one that sent it. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So I'm gonna give you props. She sent it to me a couple of days ago. I sent it to one of my best mates as well, and I think he's decided to do it, and that's the one. So yeah. And also, if it doesn't work, I'm not to blame anymore. So yeah, yeah. But now, thank you for that. All right, so training the model. There's a hero, which is not step. The first step is comfort. Then you need to disrupt it with some form of outer experience. Then you need to understand the inner challenges that they're going through. But the hero needs help. So they meet an advisor. The advisor, if all the advisor did was give the hero motivational talks, the person would not defeat the outer challenge. You know, let's say, for example, I was in the karate film, like the Karate Kid, and I needed to beat up the big guy who's black belt, and Mr. Miyagi didn't give me any training. He just tried to motivate me like he was Tony Robbins or something like that. That's not going to help me. I need actual practical things to do. And this is why you need to give the hero some form of path. Wax on, wax off. Luke used the force. Mufasa, whatever he said to Simba in the when he was looking, I think it was in the, the river or whatever it was, and then he said, and that's when Simba left the jungle to go and face Scar. Like, you need to give them a path. For me, when I'm training, and I've mentioned it already, when I'm doing AI training, it's the fundamentals. Whether it's the fundamentals are 8 essentials. So the 8 essentials I've mentioned multiple times, or the fundamentals: prompt, imagination, tool. That's the path that I'm giving you guys. If I'm positioning myself as the advisor and you guys are the heroes. Now, this here goes into the third story that you're telling. So right at the beginning, I said, you're telling 3 stories. I said, you're telling the company story or your personal brand story. Then I went into the user journey story. But the third story is within the user journey story, and this is the content story. Now, I'm not going to go into how to create content, but content ultimately is the beginning, middle, end. Or you can use AIDA, get my attention, get my interest, stir my desire, let me take action. But what I will say is this: who is your enemy? If you really look at the people that's got big personal brands right now, from the president to people that you might love or hate, to even people that's just doing well, like might not have a massive following, but they're very good content. They've pretty much all of them's got some form of enemy. Now, I don't mean some devil or some troll or anything like that. It could be like a group of people that are like this. So for me, one of the enemies that I see are these AI hype boys, I call them. Where it's like, oh, there's this tool that does blah 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 blah, and it just creates confusion. That's my enemy. So I'm going to start doing YouTube content very 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 soon. I've got all the equipment now, so I'm ready to do it. You're going to see me use them as my enemy. Some people will use other things as their enemy. Don't do this like these type of people, or don't do this like this type of situation. But if you're going to do content, the reason why you have an enemy is so a group of people, or ideally your heroes, will have that enemy in common as well. And they will support you. So have a think about that. Who is your enemy? This is what, if ChatGPT knows you very well, then it will help you define your enemy. I myself am my enemy. Well, yeah, everyone's their own worst enemy, but in this case, it's not you. In this case, it won't be you. All right. So once you give them a path, and your path is going to be your content, they're going to go through trials and transformation. What I mean by that is, in the film, they never, all right, cool, thank you for wax on, wax off, let me go fight everyone and win. No, they'll try it and it doesn't work, and then they'll try something else and it doesn't work, and then they'll try this and it gets better, and then they'll do well, and then some halfway through the film they'll try and tackle the outer challenge, and then they'll lose, and then they'll go on even more training montage, and at the end of the film they'll win. Like, this happens in every one of these films, like every single one. Like, I was watching like Christmas films with my girlfriend over like the Christmas period, and they're all usually some rom-coms, and I'm like, when is the everything's going okay and then something happens and then they break up, or they're not gonna get together, where it looks like that has to happen at some point, because once that's gone past that, I know the film's about to end soon. That's kind of like how I look at it. So they all go through this, and your customers will do this as well. They'll try this. Let's say, for example, me and training you guys. You're going to try this and AI, and it might not work. You might try to train it, and it might not work, or it might not work perfectly, or it's like other people are doing this and it works for them. But the more you do it, the more consistent you are, the more you just like have that build up the belief, the more confident you get. Just like in the films, eventually you'll get to the point where you'll be able to do it. And that's the transformation. And once you get to that transformation stage, you defeat the inner and outer challenges, you got a new identity. And that is, as I said, the hero that you see at the beginning of the film is not the same person at the end of the film. When it comes to training, like my sorry, my son's going crazy. Don't know if you heard that. When it comes to training, my aim is transformation. Like, how can I make sure that when I said hi, I'm Andrew at the beginning, that by the time I finish, you're like, I can do this. That's always my aim when it comes to training. So this is the new identity. And that there is pretty much how I structure story. How I also, when people ask me, how do you train so many different things? I just follow this pattern. And I've been doing this for 15 years off of training and another 10 years before that doing radio. For me, this is one of the things that I've always defaulted to, and it's always worked. And even when I've trained clients, the amount of clients that's come back to me or businesses that's come back to me and said, you've completely changed the way we do personas, because that's what it is in the corporate world, the persona, the target audiences. And we're actually starting to realize that when we went through our content, 95% of it makes us the hero. So we just made these little changes, and then all of a sudden, things started working. So that's how important this is when it comes to storytelling. Did that make sense? Hopefully it did. If it made sense, press 7. If not, press 8. I just want to make sure it made sense to you, because brilliant. Cool. All right, brilliant. So, has anyone got any questions regarding that? And I'm going to stop sharing my slides now, because I want to see some faces. Has anyone got any questions regarding that hero story? Or I call it, as I said, the 7 steps to storytelling. If you have, just put the mic on and ask.
My only question is, do you have a favorite story?
That follows that structure, probably The Dark Knight. My favorite film is The Usual Suspects, but that doesn't follow that story. It goes down another story route. But I would say my second favorite films are the Marvel, from the first one all the way up to Endgame. No, the Spider-Man after that. Since Spider-Man has been there, but they all kind of follow that structure as well. But I would say as an individual film, Batman, The Dark Knight, that's probably the one. Obviously, the hero is, well, Batman. The inner and outer challenges that Batman goes through is, well, the outer challenge is the Joker. The inner challenge is, I can't kill somebody. I have to stay good. I have to protect Gotham. Do they think bad of me? His advisor was Alfred. You know, these are all of the things. And Alfred gave him instructions on how to, you're dealing with somebody when it comes to the Joker. You're playing a mental game, not a physical game. This is a guy that just wants chaos. So that's the thing. And then like how he trained him. And then at the end, the Batman was a different person. Now, the transformation, he managed to overcome it, but he ended up, like, this took a lot on him. And it wasn't necessarily a good transformation. However, he done what he ultimately wanted to do, which was save Gotham. So that's the story. They all follow the same structure. And what you see in films, Finding Nemo and Taken, is the exact same structure. It's the exact same structure when it comes to film. It's the same thing. It's just that one's rated 18 and one's like a cartoon. But it's the same structure. This person goes missing, someone else needs to go find them. You can learn a lot from scripts, especially content. if you're putting stuff on social media. And the reason I say that is because what a film's trying to do is the exact same thing that you're trying to do, and that's keep people engaged. So that's why I think storytelling is one of the key things. And that's why when it comes to AI, use it to help you tell the story. But also, if you're going to create all of these videos and all of these amazing AI videos that are not AI slop, your story is going to make you stand out because soon everyone will have access to great technology. It's your story that's going to make you stand out. Anyone else got any questions or any thoughts on this? Soné, hopefully I answered your question from last week. Well, a part of it, because there's a lot more to personal branding. Yes, you have. Okay, brilliant. Glenn.
Yeah, everything made sense. I appreciate everything you took us through. I guess my question to you is, especially when it comes to films, is at some point, are we not going to just get tired of this structure and when we see it coming from a mile away? I know half the films I watch, I know what's going to happen and I get bored. So isn't it kind of interesting to kind of mix it up at some points where you think you know what's going to happen and when you don't people find that sometimes the most engaging and the most talk value after the fact, after the movie's over and you tell people, hey, did you see this thing? I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at? I mean, I don't know if that works for a company trying to sell something, because if you make it too complicated, then they're going to get lost in the journey. But certainly for films, I think it'd just be nice to stop that, to mix it up in that formula.
Yeah. So when it comes to, so I said that there's three stories you're telling. I said there's the company story, there's the user journey story, and then within that I mentioned the content story. And then I talked about ADA. So I said attention, interest, desire, action. And then I was talked about who's the enemy. This goes into a different structure. You can technically still use the hero story or the hero's journey when it comes to your content, but there are other structures as well. That's why I said I'm not going to kind of go into it today. But I did give you one bit, which was the enemy. And the enemy, when it comes to the user journey, you could argue it's disruption and the outer challenge, but it's not the same type of enemy or the same way you look at it. My favorite film is The Usual Suspects because I thought it was a great film, and then the ending just made it go from a 9 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 because it's that what's happening here. And when it comes to your content that you might put on social media, or if you're doing YouTube or anything like that, a twist can always do well. When it comes to using that for a user journey, I wouldn't do that because you could lose people. And that's why it's like on the user journey, you just might want to just stick to like the tried and tested. Okay, this is what they're after. This is who I'm trying to target. This is what their challenges are. I must overcome that. If I position myself this way and I give you a guide with my content, which I can then start playing around with, then hopefully they will have some form of transformation and buy. But yeah, so there's the kind of, hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's actually, because it's three stories that you're telling, it's the third story when you start playing around and twisting it and following other structures. But I'm the same as you. You can pretty much tell YouTube. I can pretty much tell if someone's going to try and sell me something like almost immediately. It's just like those when you go to those conferences and they try and sell you something at the back of the room, or a webinar that 50 minutes in, they're going to start trying to sell you a course and it's this price today. If you buy it today, it's going to be this price. Like you can tell that a mile away. That's one of the reasons why I always say there's no sales on this webinar, because I don't want people to be listening thinking, when is he selling me something? To be honest, if I'm selling you something, it's just join the WhatsApp group or check out the podcast. That's pretty much it. Anyone got any other questions? Sine, what business would you say tell good stories? So when it comes to businesses, I think Paddy Power tells good stories. I think Dove back in the day, they used to tell good stories. Trying to think Ryanair. Don't know if you've seen what's happened with Ryanair recently. Like the guy who runs Ryanair is having a bit of a spat with Elon Musk. But Ryanair, their customer service, their stories, the way they do it is good until you've lost your luggage and then you want them to be serious and then they're trying to joke with you. But I think they do some good stuff. So I'll have a look at that in a minute, Miriam. So is there anyone else who thinks that's good? He can come in if he wants. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, Ryan Ayres marketing. What tool do you recommend to help write the stories? I would, I, I, I don't usually write the stories if I'm being honest. I'm not a massive fan of letting AI script for me. I let it help me assist, and that one is any large language model. To be honest, if you've trained it, they all do a good job. As I said, Chat GPT, but Perplexity is like very close. I pay for Copilot and I also pay for Gemini as well. So they're kind of like the main ones. But regardless, you just want to have a large language model like by your side, regardless of what one. And I really believe that unless you're like need it for deep coding or deep research, like deep research, if you train it well, they all can pretty much get you a good story. Paul said, I write my stories, but you check. Yeah. So structure, for me, structure is way more important than the story. If you can structure it right, then the story can help fill in the gap. But the structure is really, well, to be honest, it's all part of the same thing. But structure is really important, especially if you want to keep people engaged. Because that's where I've seen good stories lost because of poor structure. ChatGPT is great for hooks as well. Yeah, I've got many things trained just on that. What tool do you use to generate consistent images like those used in your slide deck? So I use Midjourney. And in Midjourney, there's a feature called stylization. And what I do is I have a particular style, which you can see, and I use that, and then I just prompt. So if I'm working with, let's say, FIFA, I will have the same style, but it will be football-related images. And if I'm working with, let's say today, the TV production side of companies, I will be the same style, but it'll be people in the studio. So that's what I use. It's Midjourney. Is Midjourney better than Nano Banana? It's better at creating images, I find, but when it comes to editing, I think Nano Banana is better. Like for doing replacement images. If you really get to know Midjourney is like, I wouldn't say it's as in-depth as Canva or Photoshop, but there's a good editing suite there that you can use. But it's a bit more complicated than like just Nano Banana, where you can just prompt. Thank you, guys. Cool. All right. So it's 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or wherever you are in the world. Everyone is in different parts, but it's 2 or 4 minutes past whatever hour. Thank you again for joining. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I know there was a problem with the calendar. I had it mixed up. So thanks, Anita, for letting me know. I hadn't changed certain parts, but it's every 2 weeks. So today is the 21st, I think. 21st. Yep. So the next one is going to be the 4th of February. So I'll be I'll just be on my way back from, I should be, because I'll be coming back from Birmingham then. So the 4th and then the 18th and then, I'm just traveling these days. So yeah, cool. Yeah, the 4th February, the 18th, and that's going to be in February. So thank you very much. If you please let as many people as you know about the podcast that I do, the In a Nutshell podcast, or even the Fortnightly Fix, and also the WhatsApp group. If you're not part of the WhatsApp group, go to my website, andrewmilesdavis.com, go to the menu at the top and you'll see that. In fact, I'm actually changing my website, hopefully tomorrow. I'm gonna upload this. So I'm gonna stop recording. I'm gonna upload this so you get a copy of it. You'll get an email and a copy of it. So feel free to watch it again. I pretty much make these public on YouTube, but I don't really promote it. I don't go into that much description and stuff. I even make it unlisted, usually unlisted. So it's only given to you guys who come, or anyone who signs up. So I know people can't make it sometimes, which is fine, but I'll make sure that they can listen to it again. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening. Take care, stay warm, and I will see you guys somewhere online. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thanks, Andrew.
Take care.
care.
Bye-bye.